I don't see Oscar. Where's
Costas,
Oscar?
I remember from the team.
Time
Have we met
Scar.
Gavin?
Oh,
Tim
Time
Scar.
Scar is Oscar.
I think Gavin's in 2D. But Andy, do I remember Andy? Have we met before?
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. All right. Well, thank you everybody for coming. I'm looking at the time. What time is it? Okay,
I
we're
got a
going
clock
past it.
right there. Yep.
Right. Okay. Oh, yeah. Yeah, and it's local time as well. I love how that's local
is.
time.
Yep.
That's so cool. All right.
Thank you for everybody joining in on YouTube as well.
Yeah. How many viewers have we got?
Right now,
I think we're still waiting for Brian as well.
Okay. And thank you everybody, YouTube, wherever you're filming. Is Brian on his way? We got Brian in the house?
I saw Brian disappear from our pre-room. He just like boom, just disappeared.
Okay.
I hope he's okay.
Is there a way of locating him? Have we got a line to him or something like that?
Yeah, let me just check my WhatsApp on the
Nice one.
screen.
All right. Wonderful. Okay. So let's see, we'll do a bit of engagement here. No pun intended.
Hey, Brian just said it won't let him in, so maybe
Oh, all right. I have to check the event thing.
try something there.
It will let him in
Did,
eventually.
did he register for the event? And he might need to scroll down on the event view just a little bit to see the join button.
Whose mic's that?
So there's no one on the waiting list. Everyone's gone straight.
It's Craig. I got Craig here. We got him.
Yeah?
There we go.
All right. Any minute now. We need more women and females at these events. We need to do something about that. Yeah. Anyone want to switch avatar quickly? Just joking.
I had someone else say they can't find the log on button.
Have them just scroll down a little bit on the event. They'll see it. They're not scrolling down.
Yeah, I had the same problem.
Yeah, me too.
Scroll down.
Excellent.
So Brian just sent us an email saying he cannot get in. So maybe.
Okay.
Did he scroll down to see the join button? And did he sign up for the event?
I'll ask him now.
Have him hit the calendar. He should see it live.
Cool. I guess he's trying to come in as we speak. I've sent him some messages, but we need to crack on. So, where is Dan? Okay, Dan's over there.
All good?
Cool. We've got Kyle. Kyle is here.
Excellent.
You can see Greg again.
We've got a whole team today, haven't we?
I think there is, yeah. Mike's here.
Today, yeah.
Wicked. So, I think Brian is going to obviously try and get in. I think he's having some snags, but I've messaged him and told him what is going on. So, I think, Daniel, we were going to do a bit of an introduction.
Lovely, absolutely.
Talk about this is basically a bit of an amalgamation of all of the events that we've had recently. Now we've all joined forces.
Right, exactly. So,
give us a little bit about Educators in VR.
Totally. So, thank you very much, Alex. First of all, thank you everybody for coming, and thank you everybody on YouTube who's watching as well. This is being live streamed. And by the way, is anybody doing spatial recording for this? I might quickly do that.
That'd be great, Daniel. Thank you.
Yeah, it's not jumping to recording name. Okay, just do this quickly. River.
Make sure you pick everyone.
Cool.
Yeah, everyone recording in 5 seconds. There we go. All right. So yeah, my name is Daniel DeBoss-Brandt. I'm co-founder of Educators in VR. Hi, Rich. And
hi, Rich.
I've been operating on the Engage platform for a while now. One of my preferred platforms. Little plug there for Engage. And recently we met up with Alex River and his team, who do the photogrammetry, the photorealistic models. Bit of a brainchild that we would bring some of the models in and combine the models with some kind of workshop interactive activities from an education training standpoint. And the first one was so much fun and so successful that we ran another one 2 or 3 weeks ago, which just was one of my favorite events, and I think it will stay one of my favorite events. And I think we'll be doing more along those lines as well. And it was the first one was around fire safety training. The last one was specifically about how to learning how to create photogrammetry models, and this one has an angle of crime scenes and anti-terrorism elements. We have Kyle here from the police force. And then we have Mike as well, who's going to be showing us some great sequences. So we're going to be spending a bit of time here and a bit of time in some of the other locations. And we've got some great activities lined up for you. I don't want to speak too much more other than to say thank you very much. We've got Kyle here. We've got Alex and his team, Mike. Oscar here is filming. We got the one and only host, Chris Madsen from Engage. And we have Steve here from Leica, who's he's got some interesting, like fantastic models he's going to show us later on as well, and also how to use this. So be prepared to go on a bit of a journey around Engage, learn a lot, and really have some quite impactful experiences as we go along. Over to you, Alex.
Perfect. So we've got claps as well. So
we got the claps, yeah.
Claps now work thanks to Chris.
Yeah,
I love that.
It is cool. That is good. So Brian hasn't made it, but me and Brian have been joining together and doing a bit of a thing called XR Files, where we've been interviewing different people. And a couple of weeks ago, we had someone from Unity, Jerome, giving us a little talk through about the Unity product. And today we are going to have the part 2 of our police event. So before we had Mike from DSTL and Kyle from Met Police, and they gave us a wicked talk in a really cool room last time. I think anyone who joined last time remembers being a bit of a Goodfellows scenario. That was a nice, cool room that was, Chris.
Yeah.
And this week we're going to do the second part of that, because we managed now River's partnership with Engage has progressed a bit more, and now we can start offering the ability to bring other models into Engage in a much more like streamlined way. So we've managed to bring some of Kyle's models in, and we're going to talk about those on location, contextually on site. And then we've got Mike, who's going to talk about his crime scenes that he's been making in VR. And then we've got Steve from Leica, who has we've managed to bring a laser scanner into Engage, and we've got some effects around it. And Steve's going to show us how, with the model, we can all have a go at scanning a crime scene with Kyle. So I think we should move quite fast. Otherwise, we're going to run out of time again, because the last event definitely ran over, Daniel. So
yeah, on intention, I made the last event an hour and a half, just because we wanted to have that little extra, and we used it, but everybody stayed. It was amazing. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, cool. So Kyle, we're going to go to the first part, and I think we've got Brian back as well. That looks like
Brian! Hey, hold on. Let's get him set up here. Let's get Brian set up as a host here.
I was trying the where is Brian? There you go, Brian. All right, I was trying the whole time
to go,
let you
man.
in. Nice one, excellent.
Yeah,
all right, cool.
Great technology. So welcome all. I presume we've done all the
So I've done the intros.
Yeah,
but we just talked about XR Files and the things we've been doing, and now we're going to move into Kyle's first little demo just to keep things going.
Okay, yeah, I'll talk about it a little later on. Carry on, Carl.
Yeah,
sorry I was late.
That's all right.
That's
State of the art.
All right, here we go.
Right. Excellent.
So Chris.
Yes.
The wide open, endless possibilities.
Chris, do you want to tell us about this room from an Engage point of view?
Yeah. So let's wait for everyone to land here.
We've got a building on the side.
Right.
Don't know. Okay.
Yes, we do. We're going full Inception. wanted basically a blank canvas to start building on. It also has some very good lighting with shadows and whatnot to show off some of these models.
Okay, yeah.
And here is Kyle's model that this is showing a representation of where we're going to be going next. I'll leave this up to Kyle from here.
Hello, can everyone hear me?
Kyle.
Yes.
Yeah,
fine.
fantastic. I've hit the right button. Good evening, morning, everyone. Again, depending on where you are. It's really weird for me to say it, but I do actually recognise some faces, albeit virtually, which is really quite strange for me. So some of you would have come to the previous event that Mike and I gave a presentation at, where I explained some of the ways that within the Metropolitan Police we have been utilising virtual reality technology to support training for frontline officers on a variety of different situations. But because of my specialism in the area I work in, which is counter-terrorism, that's kind of been our primary focus with regards to our virtual reality work. So what we've got here, as we say, we've got a bit of a side-on view to give you an aerial view. What we've done is, thanks to Alex, I've been able to bring in some of the models that we use for some of our training packages. Specifically, we're going to be looking at a 3D model of a London bus. And on that London bus, we have placed a suspect package, and it will all come apparent when we go down there. But as you'll kind of see on here, this is the scene that we're going to be in. The road has been cordoned off by police at either end of the road, and we've got our bus in the middle. So what we're going to be doing is to kind of represent to you the sort of training scenario that we can do with police officers. So for police officers and for us in London, as I'm sure you can imagine, we get hundreds of calls, thousands of calls a week to suspect packages where items of luggage or backpacks, whatever it may be, have been found abandoned within London. And it's our job as the police to respond to those calls and to make an assessment as to whether we think that package is simply lost property, or whether that package is something a bit more worrying, whether it could unfortunately be a explosive device or something of that nature, or a chemical related device. And that's the job that our officers are faced with every day. So what these sorts of training packages gives our officers the ability to do is to actually practice the training that we've given them in the classroom around the procedures and assessment processes that they should go through, and they can do it in a realistic way, in a realistic environment. So I think the best thing for us to do is to get down to street level, and people can start to have a go and have a look.
Boom.
And here we go.
What I like about this particular space being empty is 0 to quickly,
We're in.
boom, and now we're in a city. Look at that. From a training, from a creating point of view, suddenly emotionally you feel in a city, relating to the buildings, to the whole scenario, from being in an empty space. Amazing.
Yeah, I love the switch.
So I'm just going to put in a few of my colleagues into here, my virtual colleagues, just to give you
We have some bystanders as well, right?
Yeah, we do. We have some bystanders. We've got some guys. So in this situation, what this kind of gives us the ability to do is, in the training package we've actually got we've modelled a part of central London, so it is a recognisable location for our officers, so that they've actually kind of get that immersive experience where they recognise where they are, and it's an area that they patrol. So as I say, this is a scenario which we tend to deal with on a semi-regular basis. So over here we've got our 3D model of a London bus, completely accurate 3D model of a London bus, in quite high detail as well. And what this allows us to do is we can bring police officers into this environment. We can add other factors into it as well to make it as realistic as possible. But basically, officers can practice responding to a call of a suspect package as they would in the real world, without us actually having to shut down a part of London and be able to provide them this training opportunity. So if you imagine when we're training new recruits in a classroom at our training school, we don't have the ability to take them out to a real street, shut down a road like this and get them to do an assessment of a suspect package. But this is where the benefits of virtual reality really come to fruition, where we can do this in a classroom and give them as realistic an experience as we possibly can. So what I'd invite you to do is you can walk onto the bus. It's probably easier to walk through the front here and look through, and you'll be able to see the quality of this model that we particularly use for some of our training. So obviously this model's been 3D modeled, computer model rather than photogrammetry. And when you're in there, you will see a rucksack on one of the seats. And this is the sort of typical sort of thing that we have to deal with. The rucksack itself, it's a very low poly photogrammetry bag. But essentially this is the sort of package that our officers would have to actually deal with on the street. So one of the things that we do as police officers is obviously we give our officers training on how to do their assessments. Unfortunately, because of the sensitivities of it, I can't talk you through an assessment that an officer would actually do when they're us and they look at this sort of package. But I can talk you through the assessment that we encourage our public and our security partners to go through. And it's what we call the HOT principles. So H stands for hidden. So one of the main considerations we look at is where this package has been found. Is it hidden? Does it look like it has been deliberately placed there so that no one will be able to find it, so it cannot be found? That would kind of up our kind of assessment of it potentially being a suspect package. O stands for anything that is obviously suspicious. So that could be wires coming out of the bag. That could be a bag that seems to be holding a very heavy weight inside of it. It could be liquids in the bag. We could actually see some liquid seeping out of containers in the bag and staining some of the outsides of the bag. And it also could be smells for us as well. Anything about the appearance of that bag that would make it seem obviously suspicious. And then T stands for typical. Is that bag typical of this environment? So for some of you who may recall, we had the unfortunate incident with the terrorist attack that we had at the Ariana Grande concert in Manchester in 2017. The suspect for that particular terrorist attack had quite a heavy backpack on his back and wasn't really the sort of thing that you would see at that sort of event. So again, is it typical for the environment that it's been found in? Particular circumstance here with this type of suspect package we have, you know, I would suggest that yes, it wouldn't be unheard of to find a bag that's been accidentally left on the seat. So that's when police would come in and we would do a bit more of an in-depth assessment of that package. And as I say, unfortunately, I can't go to the ins and outs of what that package is because our tactics are protected. But the sort of thing, just to give you an idea of you know, the type of things that would be obviously suspicious. On the ground floor of this bus, I have actually put a package that is obviously suspicious. And I would hope that whether it be a member of the public or a police officer was to see it, it kind of highlights this need to do a thorough search as to whether it be suspicious. So I'd like to see who finds it first. See if they can get it.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go, straight away. Yeah. So,
watch out with the lasers, it might trigger.
yeah. Be careful. So yeah, obviously, if we were to see something like that, that would be obviously suspicious and things like that. But some of the, depending on what sort of explosive device has been made, whether it be a homemade explosive device and what it's been made out of, you know, we can typically see things, liquids in bottles, or it could be powders and things of that nature without me going into the how to make a bomb, because obviously I can't do that. But it comes in a variety of different forms. But obviously that sort of thing would be concealed within a bag, and that's the sort of thing that we need to be conscious of. So yeah, so as I say,
Interesting,
this
Kyle, and it's amazing being actually stood in a bus with you talking contextually about the things that you would talk about in the real world normally. Yeah, exactly. So with these sorts of environments, it's not only a case of where we can say, right, okay, we've got a police officer responding, let's just leave them to it, and they can go do their assessment. We are actually able to bring classrooms with new recruits into an environment like this, where we can bring them all into the bus at the same time, and then actually show them the process that an experienced officer would go through, whether that be a trainer or whether that be an experienced officer that we brought in for the day to share their real life experiences. We can kind of replicate that and bring that into these sorts of environments, which is just amazing. And as I say, when we're working in classrooms, and you know, because new recruits training in the police and the Met is about 6 months, so in that 6 months, the majority of that time is spent in the classroom. So being able to do things like this, where we can try and bring the street into the classroom for them, is really, really beneficial for us.
Can I ask a question? How,
yeah, of course.
I mean, how important will it be to have, so for example, Google Earth has a lot of actual real world data, if you like, and this is a generic street block with a generic bus. How much more valuable will it be when we have actual digital twins of actual locations? Will that add to your training scenarios?
Yes, it'll make life a lot easier for
Yeah.
us at the
Yeah,
moment.
yeah.
As I say, the actual scenario we use that we've created, which isn't in the Engage platform, and one of the ones that we have, which is an underground station, we tried to get uploaded for you, but unfortunately we couldn't do it in time. So we do try and focus our training packages to replicate digital twins of the real world, because we've kind of learned from the academic research that we've done that the more the subject and the student recognizes the location they're working in, the more benefits it's going to bring for them, and the more memory recall they're going to get if they deal with a similar situation in the real world. So if we can get to the point where we've got a whole digital twin of London where we can take officers to any area, that would be, fantastic. So within policing, we have new recruits and we will post them to an area of London during their probation. And that could be an area of London that person has never lived in, never worked in before. For me, when I first joined the police, I worked in Southwark, which was an area of London that I didn't know very well at all. If we had a digital twin of that, officers could go out and they could learn the ground that they're going to be patrolling through the digital twin, rather than like when I joined, when I had to get the road map out and try and learn it that way. Officers can actually go there. I think that would be a fantastic resource, definitely.
There's another model that
it's finding that
there's
balance.
another model. Sorry, go on.
Oh, sorry. It's finding that balance between how much real and how much interaction you have to take within the scene. And I think you're right. When we move to real London, that'll be a massive step forward, because you can familiarise yourself with the routine, but when you put it into a context, it takes on a different meaning. It's like when we do on the shop floor. When you go down to the shop floor, there's noises, there's distractions. And
that's exactly it. So in this sort of environment, we don't have any audio in here at the moment, because obviously we're all talking to each other. But in a kind of, if we were to do this training scenario for police officers, we would want the sound of sirens, we would want the sound of the public, we would want people at the cordons trying to get through and asking to get through, because it's all of these extra stressors and pressures on police officers when they're making their decisions that actually really bring out that decision making and really give that realistic sort of experience, which again you can't replicate in the classroom. So to have this sort of scene here and have the bus driver talking to the officer saying, look, it's only just a bag, can we just take it off the bus? I've got a round to do, I've got passengers I need to take, I'm already delayed by an hour. All of that sort of pressure on officers may lead them to think, oh, I'm just going to treat this as lost property rather than do a thorough assessment. Whereas
so here we've got some background noise already. This you hear that? I think Chris probably brought that in already. That's changing, like already a little bit of your attention is now not here, right? Because you're listening.
Totally. And what we can do after this is after the responding officers have actually done their assessment, and if they turn around and they there we go.
Yeah, another problem.
Really loud.
It's really loud. So if like this sort of scenario can build on, so it may be that the first responders turn up and they do their assessment of that suspect package, or of that package, and then they go, yes, I'm going to make the decision that I'm not happy, I need a further assessment of this. Then we can go to the next stage of the scenario where we can actually bring in the explosive officers who will come in and then do an even more thorough assessment of that. They may send in their little robot that will come in and open the bag at a safe distance and things like that. So it's all these different sort of things, it really kind of gives that opportunity to, as close as the real thing as possible, for officers to practice.
Carl, with the outside scene, because I know we're all cramped in the bus. On the outside scene, is it set up a certain way? So is the perimeter a certain distance? Is the police cars
so we do have
position?
within policing, we, depending on the size of the package, we do have certain cordon distances. But obviously within that, if you think of London, which is very metropolitan, it's very built up area, you can set up a cordon distance, and within that you will have buildings and things like that. So the officer will be having to make a decision.
Lost him.
Just cut
Carl,
off.
we're not. Can't hear you.
Oh,
Can you hear me?
Didn't mute yourself.
Here we go.
Yeah,
You're
yeah,
back.
you're back.
Yeah, you're
Can
back
hear
up.
you now.
You're good.
Hello.
To stop the model
We're back.
because we're probably going to crash the thing. Let's not.
He just crashed out.
Okay.
He'll be
I
back.
think,
All right,
I think
well,
should we-
on timing, we should move on. Because
Let's
All
move
right.
on.
I just before we jump, I wanted to say that obviously this is very, very useful from a police and counterterrorism scenario, even just for school kids to learn how to behave on a, you know, I'm thinking of it from an education point of view. For school
Yeah,
kids,
definitely.
college leavers to learn how to behave on public transport, that would be valuable as well.
how to evacuate the bus in a proper order. and
Yeah,
things
how
like
to
that, I think,
evacuate, how to approach the bus driver, you know, to develop the confident communication soft skills. Excuse me, practice the phrases that you would use. In Kyle's back there. All right,
Kyle,
Kyle.
we're going to
I'm
move on
back.
to the
Hello.
next scene,
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, thank you so much,
Fantastic, yeah.
Kyle.
Yeah, but if
Lovely.
anyone's got any questions about it afterwards, I'll be hanging around for a bit networking. And I do have
Excellent.
a video on the hot principles if anyone wants to learn more about that kind of what the public can do to assess a package as to what the subject.
Yeah, cheers, Kyle.
I could imagine wanting to do a
Alright.
follow-up event on this. Thank you.
All right,
Yeah,
let's head on over.
Yeah.
Oh,
All right, if everybody could grab a seat on those hovering bleachers over there, the way you do that is you hold your teleport. There we go. We're filling them in nicely. Keep it up. Hold that teleport button down. Aim at a spot on the bleachers, and you should find a sit icon that appears when you're in the right spot, and then release your teleport button.
Chris, I love what you've done here. A little bit of branding on the front.
And let's. I'm going to help some of you seat. Some of you co-hosts, if you want to help people seat, just go into your user's guide. You can pick someone that's not seated and help them out.
Okay. Who we got? Dimascar.
Who else do we have?
Oscar, is
we
the
got,
live stream
Nitai.
okay, Oscar?
Yeah, it's going fine. Sorry, I was muted. It's all going fine. And
Good. I saw you floating around.
yeah,
This is now moving on to the next scene. I think now Mike's going to talk us through something that he's been working on. Has anyone seen Mike?
I've seen him somewhere.
He hasn't gone and
Okay.
sat down, has he?
I think we're
Yeah,
good.
he's over there sitting down. I see him.
Okay.
All right.
Chris, have you
Hi,
got this
Mike.
working then?
Yep, Mike, you're muted, by the way. If do you want me to go ahead
Mike.
and start the scenario and then pause it and then you speak, or do you want to give an intro first?
Yeah.
Where
So could you
is
give me a,
Mr. Mike?
could you give me a seat then, Chris?
You betcha.
I tried
What
with
was-
Nitai, Chris, but
Yep, I
was
think he's
resistant.
actually out. I think he might be out.
okay.
Mike,
There
do you want to
go,
screen as well?
Mike?
Lingerie.
Awesome.
Mike, are you having a screen as well?
I'm floating in the air.
I'm going
I'm
to turn you,
hybriding while
Mike.
we're.
Hang on, my friend.
Okay.
I hope you got
Right,
an
this
iron
is-
stomach there.
This is pretty amazing watching you float around anyway.
Yeah.
I can just play your video while you're up there.
Yeah, you can play then if you want to. Yeah. Yeah.
Are you all right sat there then, Mike? You look like that's the sort of place you should be.
Yeah. No, this is
From
this is
here,
good.
with the sun behind you, you look kind of godly.
Yeah. Well, I think it's the closest I'll get up here really at the moment. You know.
This is amazing. So
Yeah.
I've got a little mic. So what are we loading first? Mike, you doing your scene first then? Have you just press play
Yeah,
on
so-
something?
So just press play. We'll just go for it then, really.
All right, let's
Okay,
do it.
I'll let you go.
I'm going to
You
give
go.
it. If you want, just
Or-
give a
or-
little bit of an intro. I'm going to give this a chance for everybody to load it up.
Yeah.
Tell us what
Okay.
we're-
Yeah. So I'll
tell
give
us
an
what we're
intro.
looking at then, Mike.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do. My name is Mike Ferguson, and I work for an organisation called DSTL, and my work role is really science and technology, and providing a scientific and technological capability to law enforcement. So my job in itself, I actually produce proof of concepts, looking at all the latest technologies. We've got all these XR technologies, so it's not only VR, which is what we're looking at the moment, but obviously you've got your mixed reality, you've got your augmented reality, and how can we best use that and utilize that for the police service? So my role really is to sort of socialize the technology, but also to almost evangelize the technology. And I know Brian gave a talk a few weeks ago. There's somebody breathing heavily. It's not Kyle again, is it? But somebody, if they could actually.
No,
actually
it's not
just,
me. I'm making sure I turn my mic off.
Okay, then, yeah, okay, no problem at all. Then, yeah, but it's really sort of socializing the technology to other government departments and also to anybody who wants to listen, really, from my point of view. And that probably could be you guys listening here as well. So
Cool.
I first got into, but I'll repeat what I said last time. When I was a youngster, I used to sit in a classroom and I used to be daydreaming all day. You know, although I was physically in the room, mentally I was elsewhere. You know, always daydreaming, thinking of ideas. You know, and the funny thing about it now, I'm actually getting paid to do that now as well. So come up with concepts, come up with new ideas. And for example, one thing which we're working with something called brainware, where you could put this device on your head, and the brain actually fires off little electrical pulses. But you can actually collect those pulses in a receptacle and amplify them. So what we could then do, you could actually fly a drone just by thinking about it, and you could actually teach yourself commands, and you can make it lift up, you can make it go forward, backward, side to side. So it's things like that, which it's really the art of the possible, and really that's what we'd like to pursue. As a result of the success of the crime scene, which we produced, I've been in VR and stuck in VR for quite a while now. It's created more work for me. So later on, after this scene, then I'll be talking a bit more about it, and I'll be showing what we've done in VR with our crime scene. At the moment, this is reason I was interested in what we're about to show you, and what we're going to show you is really more a road traffic collision. But what I was interested in was the motion capture element of it, where we can actually start moving vehicles can collide, and things can actually happen. So it's a bit Hollywood, I would say, because I was working with our American colleagues, and they always make things Hollywood, you know. So you know, it's a bit dramatic. Those who are Brits, the Brits know that we're a bit more reserved, you know. So we tend to, you know, keep it a bit more low key. But it's all good, you know, and it's been really good to get together. Coming into this environment as well, I thought with this sort of pandemic, it's going all around the world, and I'd be in a position where I'd be isolated, not speaking with anybody. But what it has done, and this has shown that it's actually created another environment, this collaborative environment. Yeah. And I'm meeting new people, I'm making new friends, I'm making new contacts just by being in this environment, and I find it's amazing. So this is
well,
the
I'm
future,
seeing new things as well, Mike. We're definitely seeing new things as I watch you sat on top of a traffic signal in VR.
In midair, yeah.
Absolutely mind-blowing.
Okay, well,
yeah, what are you going to show us here then, Mike? What is all this? Why is this set up? Have you got a nice play button for us somewhere?
So this is I think that's Alex trying to tell me that I'm speaking too much.
Oh yeah,
here we go.
Let's go. Okay, so when did you do this? I've never even seen this.
Let's start this over again. See if for some reason the volume's broken there.
Okay.
Cool. This was done by your American colleagues.
Yeah, so this was done by Immerse, by Chris's colleague Steve Stato.
Ah, yeah.
Okay, cool.
Okay. Hang on one second. I'm going to reload that, guys.
Okay.
Here we go.
You can see how it's seen.
Okay. So can you all see this? Can you all see the scene?
Yeah.
Okay, that's great.
Yes.
It's or will it not run? Never work with children or videos.
Of course.
Or, you know,
I know
motion
it's
capture.
running great up till now.
Yeah.
Work with VR.
Hang on. Let me try one more thing.
Maybe I was speaking too much.
Nah, you're good.
No, don't have to be the problem.
One sec, guys. I'm just going to try one other thing, and then I'm going to come back to it. I just want to make sure, for some reason, the volume.
I think the
is
drivers
broken on
learned
there.
their lesson and they ended up not colliding.
Ha.
Okay, yeah.
Okay, you're going to hate me for this. I may have to reload this location. Do we want to do that, or do you want me to try playing it again without
Mike.
volume?
Mike,
I think whatever.
that definitely just
Yeah.
crashed me, so that chucked me out.
Yeah,
So should we just reload it then?
Let's just try it. You might not be able to hear it very well.
Yeah,
Okay,
I
Let's
think
try.
play it without the audio, maybe.
Yeah, I'm going to reload the
getting
room,
stuck on
guys.
that
I
bit.
apologize.
Yep, okay,
We're going to reload.
that's okay. That's okay, we can handle it.
I didn't fall out that time. That's good.
So
All right.
let's not break it again then, Mike.
Okay, I'll stop talking now and I'll just
All
just let
right,
it
let's
run.
go ahead. Try to hop up on these bleachers again. Everyone knows how to do that now. And we're going to cross our fingers and hope this plays.
And everyone, it is short, Mike. I think it is about 9 seconds long,
is.
isn't it? It's not.
Yeah.
No, it's a bit more than 9 seconds, but it's very short though. Yeah, it's very short.
All right.
Here we go. Cross fingers.
Remember your lower button, aim at a chair, and then release.
I'm not going to
Set
touch the
yourself
volume. I don't want to break it. So here we go.
Boom.
The smash. Are they
Yeah.
Teslas? Look, Elon won't be.
Oh,
here.
they look like BMWs.
Oh, there's definitely Hollywood. Good work, Mike.
Yeah.
Here's Kirk. Kirk in the fire. Oh my God. Crikey. Chris, have you been training Mike?
Yeah.
It looks like it.
Okay, Chris, can I have a chair again, please?
Absolutely. Let me give this a pause and I'll throw you a
You're gonna
chair.
get toasted up there, Mike.
Okay. Yeah.
All right.
Mike, I've got so many technical questions, but we'll leave those for another day.
Yeah, leave that for another
Like-
day, I think. Yeah.
Like the 360
There you go, my
video
friend.
that's a playing. Anyway, this is cool, Mike. I like that
Here's your
you've done
chair,
something
Mike.
different.
Okay. I know I've been told that I've been on a hot seat before, but this is ridiculous, you know.
Oh my God. You planned that.
I planned that. Yeah. I was trying to get that one out.
Can I
Yeah.
have the
Been practicing in
chair?
front of the mirror.
Love it.
Yeah.
Put him in
But
the
I wonder-
fire.
It's incredible
the
how
fire.
quickly we went from a peaceful scene to a full-on emergency with vehicles and people attending. Like,
Yeah.
Yep.
you know, the police, fire service, and ambulances all here. From a training perspective, this is powerful.
Yeah. So the idea for this is this is a scene, and again, you could use this for maybe a multi-agency type scenario. So you could
Yeah.
actually include the fire service, or you can see the ambulance service, and obviously the police as well. So this is something that they would respond to. This is what we would call something where they could actually do some mission planning. They could actually possibly do what we call tabletop exercises as well. So run
Yeah.
different scenarios and see how each agency would respond to that particular scenario. So this is I see it as a tool that can actually help the police in when they plan for the future. So for me,
That's
this
really
is, you know,
interesting.
yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
Also,
I wonder
also-
we've got Rob Terrio here from now paramedics in Canada. I'd be interested later on, Rob, to hear your take on this, whether this could be
Yeah.
useful in some of your scenarios. Sorry, Mike, go on.
Yeah. So also, I was going to say as well, you could actually use this to actually maybe to run scenarios where you could be in a hazardous environment,
Yeah.
but do it safely. So you know, obviously,
Yeah.
you could make all your mistakes here in this environment, and then when you go out to the, you know, and I'm just going to reiterate that this is not a replacement for real training. This is
No.
really just a supplement to supplement the training that you would do for real. And you could do it as, I say, refresher training, and maybe just test people's skills, their awareness for the future. And the important thing as well is that you can do this remotely. So where you make your cost savings and you drive your efficiency, and that's going to be something for the future, especially in the current climate, is that you can actually practice these skills in advance, but do it safely, do it in a collaborative environment. You could even do it remotely. You could do it from home or do it anywhere in the world.
And you can invite experts who have a lot of like real world experience to dial in remotely from their home to share their expertise and pass it along to trainees as well.
That's right. Yeah. So again, you can actually lean on people's previous experience before people retire. You can ask them what scenarios they've actually been through in the past, and they can actually give you those scenarios.
Yeah.
Really cool.
I think I think it's so much you could do to this particular scenario to make it more smoother and put more stuff in it. It's a good canvas to start working on, I think.
Yeah. Let's it's only 50 seconds long. Let's give it one more proper viewing. Now that we got the volume working.
I think also it's still kind of proof of concept, isn't it?
Yeah, this is very much a proof of concept, and we just use the model which we're here. He actually pulled some models in.
How long did it take you to put this together?
Well, I did this with Steve. Literally just took about an hour, a couple of hours.
Mike, I've got something coming.
Remember being a kid and playing with cars?
Yeah. That's it.
But Chris, next time, could I'm coming in a helicopter, please?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, I think I'll stop there.
We should
have. We can talk like
come out of the fire engine as well.
Should we move on to?
Yeah.
Where are we off to next? We're off to.
All right. Let's head on over to the store, hey?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Don't tell Boris about the bus.
No, I won't.
or the bike.
Sorry, guys. They switched all the rooms around on me. I don't have it memorized anymore. One moment.
So we're going to go over to the little shop. That is the plan, isn't it?
We are.
Yeah, the
yes.
perfume
Mike, who's attached to the helicopter?
I'm Steve Sato.
Yeah.
That's Chris's colleague.
Oh my
God, got some matrix moves going on.
Yeah.
He won't leave it. He'll get pinched if he leaves it.
Right.
Why don't you?
We're going to do a Steve with some screens, and I think we're going to do a little bit of Mike's crime scene, and I think it's a bit of a culmination room because we've got Kyle who's also going to talk about the bag in here, wasn't he?
Yeah. He's going to finish off. We're going to finish off with a little bit of a treasure hunt at the end. We've got something to finish off with. But Carl's just hiding the bags.
Right.
Steve, you're on. I think is it, or is it Mike still
Steve?
talking?
Where's
Well,
Mike?
here I am here.
Hey, Mike.
Yeah, lovely. So we got Steve here from Leica.
Yep.
Hello, nice to meet everybody.
Cool. Steve,
Hey, Steve.
So, Alex,
I'm going to bring. I'm not on mute.
Hold on a minute,
That's
Mike. What were you just saying? Hold on a minute, Steve.
Are you going to run the video? Are you?
Yeah, I was going to talk about the crime scenes with you.
Yeah.
First, about how we made that crime scene, and with that crime scene, Steve, we did use laser scanner, so it leads on nicely to Steve after that.
Yeah, I can link to that then. That's great.
Cool. So, Mike, I'm going to play your video. It's only a short one, but it's on the 2D screen up there. We can all hopefully see that.
Yeah. But can you pause it as well? So just play a sequence and then pause it.
I should be able to
pause it.
Oh, yeah. Let's give a warning. Graphic nature coming.
Oh yeah. Fake graphic
just everybody.
nature.
Fake.
Yeah, graphic nature. If you're squeamish or you've had bad experiences, you might want to look away for now.
Or you don't like tomato sauce.
Right. We'll play it all the way through then, Alex. Yeah.
Yeah, let's just see it and then. So forget about the audio. This is Mike's VR crime scene that we created for them. River created this from scratch a few years ago. Photogrammetry, and also why we're talking about it is because we based the whole room was done with a laser scanner. That was a P50 laser scanner. But Mike,
Which means it's
do you wanna talk about that?
photorealistic as opposed to generated digitally. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
point
it
cloud.
just gives us the mesh, gives us the point cloud, which we can then place the photogrammetry over the top of, if you like.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean it's photorealistic. It just means we have a better mesh, if you like.
You have a better mesh, but then the textures are digital afterwards, is it?
Yeah, the textures are added from the photos.
Got you. Okay.
So you capture the space of the room with the point clouds, and then you overlay the pictures that are taken, so they associate with each
amazing.
other, which builds the room up.
And does that make it particularly accurate, or?
Well, it makes it particularly real. So it looks completely accurate in terms of geometry, but the textures are completely as they were.
Wow.
And this is
Lighting and
actually
everything.
a flat in Warwick, two-bedroom flat in Warwick. Yeah, P50 scanner, Leica scanner, and then also photogrammetry over the top. But Mike's been working on this scene for a few years, and now this is out being tested in the wild in different police stations.
Can I ask a quick question then about that? So obviously you're testing this with real law enforcement people, trainees.
Yeah.
Other than the real thing, how much is missing in a model like this for training? I guess I'm trying to ask is, how much more could you do digitally, or is it actually so good now that the training is as good as it's going to get?
Well, this scene is a river scene, and it is completely photorealistic, and it is accurate to exactly like. Well, Steve can tell us the accuracy in a minute, but the laser scan makes this exactly how the scene was. We laid the body in afterwards. We did scan the body afterwards, so that is an addition. And at the moment, we are working on a crime scene investigation software that is a whole platform that allows people to place items all around the scene. So
really,
So I
a whole
think-
platform.
Mike.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Dan, I think it's got. I mean, I would say it's still got some way to go because you've got lack of shadows, you've got lack of things that are environment to flaking around and that. But it is as good as it gets at the moment, I think.
Yeah.
Sorry.
this was actually 2 years ago as well.
Yeah, so this is 2 years ago. So we do have shadows in our latest versions. Also, again, if you notice as well, we're wrapped 360 video over the top. So when you look out the windows, you see people walking up and down
I
the
saw
street.
that. Yeah.
You see vehicles passing by, and also we purposely made it an agnostic scene. So this could be used anywhere in the world virtually. You know, but a lot of the vehicles used are basically could be used anywhere in the world. Also, we've piped video into the scene as well. So you've got a news report. So that adds to the heightening all your senses. You know, so it's more convincing. But also, it does trick the brain, and you believe that this is really happening. You are really there.
Yeah.
So for us, it's Bob. I think are we gonna do questions later, Alex, or are we gonna do?
Yeah, let's
not
do.
sure.
Yeah, let's
we've
move
got,
on.
We've got 10
Sure, there'll
minutes
be
at the
lots
end
of
for
questions.
Okay, all right. So should we just move on then, or?
Yeah, I want to
Are you
move
ready
on
to-
then, Mike. We'll go from laser scanning crime scenes that we've just seen over to Steve from Leica, who's going to talk us about laser scanning, talk us through the process, and I want to see some of the latest stuff. But cheers, Mike. That was cool.
Yeah, thank you, Mike.
Good.
Thank you very much. And I think
One
Steve.
day we can get the whole scene in here.
Yeah, that's right. One day, yeah.
Steve, you're on.
I think, Steve is looking at this particular space we're in as a prop to demonstrate the 3D scan capture process. Is that right?
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
Steve,
right.
Give us
So-
an intro.
That's better.
Give us an intro to you, and I'll put your video in the background with hopefully.
Yeah, if
we
you could
make
put-
no audio on it. It won't make. I can't delete the audio when I'm playing it.
Yeah, we can. We got audio there. Here we go. You want it
Cool. So
deleted?
just press. I'll press play. That's it. Cool. That's perfect.
Yeah, so if
Steve,
you mute
are
this. So
Yep.
if you you use the video as a guide, but so yeah, I'll just introduce myself. I'm Steve Cairns, and I work for an organisation called Leica Geosystems, and we're part of a hexagon group, which is a part of a larger organisation that has lots of different verticals, from safety and infrastructure, geospatial, geosystems, which I'm part of. And we offer enterprise and solutions and technology to be everyone to an enterprise size. So in terms of technology for this event, which is really why I want to come and talk about it, is that from the city that you saw earlier from Kyle, we are a company that creates and imagines technology to capture cities on a large scale, photorealistic, and all the way down to tools like you can see in the video here. So predominantly these are used for surveying and engineering type situations. But the point is that if you want to capture something in the millimetric kind of accurate representation of the real world, I think our technology is perfect for the environment that we're all stood in here, because we can take reality and bring it into reality, but virtually. But we're actually talking and understanding in that spatial environment. So the tool that I'm going to talk to you about here is the one that you're seeing on the screen. So this is the actual scale of the product. So what you're looking at,
Steve,
is
I was shocked at how small it is to the tripod, and it actually is that small.
it is, yeah. This generation is. This is life size. So actually, this is the tripod it's mounted on, but this is a reality capture laser scanner. So it's an instrument that's full of different types of sensors. So the sensors work together to achieve a technology that can capture its environment or the reality that it's around. So if you have a look around it here, you've got effectively a 3D laser scanner. So we have a rotating mirror here in the middle. So we're spraying at 360 degrees everywhere. At 270 degrees, we're spraying laser data. So we can just see what that would look like here.
That is amazing.
I think that must be Chris.
Steve?
No,
that's Chris, I think.
Oh, we didn't find that.
I recognize his signature moves. I love it.
So the technology is based on an infrared laser pulse. So as you just saw there, it's firing out at 2 million points a second, and depending on how far away it is, defines my resolution. So if I was to take this instrument here, it's line of sight. So I have to remember that because it's infrared, it works on the same principles as similar to sonar or radar, but this is LiDAR. So it's light detection and ranging. So this instrument measures 2 million times a second the pulse of light backwards and forwards to it, and then that's how we get our 3D. So as this instrument's turning around, it's also taking HDR imagery, which then superimposes onto the laser points. So those laser points can then be moved around and create a scene like this. I've got lots of occlusions, so if I take, for example, if I take the scanner here and I want to scan my environment, I'm blocked by all of this shelving. I've got, blocking people.
So it wouldn't see me here, right? It wouldn't see my body here, right?
No, exactly. So LiDAR doesn't see around corners or through other objects as well. So if I want to build a scene, for example, if this is a forensic scene, so, forensics and what we saw earlier with the crash scene, these instruments are very popular for capturing these. So I've got actionable spatial information that I can use later in the office, but I need a full, complete scene. So if I scan here, I could then link the instrument from that point to this point. But the clever thing with this tool is that it's also using a camera system. So the camera system is using a kind of a real-time localization using visual. So it's a visual aided inertial system. So it's actually got eyes, effectively. So it just watched itself go from there to there. So it can recalculate where itself is. So then if I go down here, I've got 4 scans. I've just made it bigger.
Does that reduce post-production?
It does. The instrument is recording on a tablet-based system. So as I'm moving, the visual inertial system here is aiding me having to tell the system where it is when I'm back in the office. So it's speeding me up in this instance as well, which is this type of sensor makes it more agile, really. Traditionally, it would have took a lot longer to do that type of thing.
Yeah.
Steve, tell us about the history. This is scanning. Did you say 2 million points a second? What was the? That used to be.
Well, way back in the day, you'd have the single laser pulse that you'd see coming out of an instrument like this would be recorded. If you think back to the days of theodolites or total stations on tripods, you see surveyors using them. They'd be taking single point measurement from the instrument. So it would be measuring, say, the elevation and the building windows, for example. Whereas this is faster and I'm more agile, and the precision of it as well is millimeter. So it's really amazing for building up these.
So
the 3D
even to the corner of the room, you would get millimeter precision.
Yep. So this has got a range of 130 meters by 2. So it's from one side to the other. It can do about 260 meters from the actual origin of the scanner.
So you could put it almost in Wembley Stadium, almost on the kickoff spot.
In the middle bit.
Almost, 130 wouldn't quite reach.
Yep. So you'd move it as.
Yeah. That's kind of the range, like a stadium size almost.
Oh,
it's amazing.
Wow.
These
really
are now.
Cool, Steve,
this
to be able to see these in here.
It is amazing. I mean, this is a real. It's a miniaturization and an improvement on technology. Only 5 years ago was a lot heavier, bulky. Police forces and government bodies have had them, but they're not so easily deployable because the technology, it's good, but it's just not you can't have it in the palm of the pocket or in your boot.
Yeah.
But really now that's a reality, I think, with this type of technology.
Steve,
very quick question.
Steve.
Yeah. Sorry, go on.
Steve, if somebody just has it unboxed and wants to get up and running, how long does it take from a complete novice to unboxing it and getting it going?
For an instrument like this, I'd say probably half a day, probably.
Really?
Brian,
That's good.
To get going.
Yeah.
So you've got all the functionality of the tablet.
It was definitely easy to use. It's got the full-on tablet on the
You've
side.
got
I went
one,
down to
Alex?
the site. I borrowed one off Steve before. And we went down to the site the other day, and I just had my little lesson. And it literally is: do you want a high-resolution scan or a low-res scan? It gives you the times on the side. It basically just says, 1 minute 51 for a scan, or like 1 minute. I'm not sure the time, Steve. What are the two times? 151 or.
Yeah, there's 1.5, 2 and 3, 2.5 minutes, and that depends on whether you want 3 millimeters, 6 or 12 millimeter accuracy at 10 meters. But the certainty of those measurements at that distance are still millimeter. It's just that the resolution of them is compromised. Yet still, you're talking 2 million points a second. So even at 10 meters, at 12, it's more than enough.
Steve, how does it deal? How does it deal with noise? So, say you're doing an outside scene and you're capturing things like trees that are moving, things like that. Because I remember we did a session out on a test track where we scanned it. And Carlo is here somewhere. We scanned the test track and we had to work on the trees because they just weren't scannable.
Yeah, tell us about trees, Steve.
Yeah, unfortunately, things that as it's on a static tripod, so the world that moves slightly around us that we have no control over, we can do something about it. The software has an inbuilt capability now to detect moving features from what wasn't there in the previous scan and remove them. Or it does 2 revolutions of scan, and if something wasn't there in the previous one, it removes it statistically. It says, you were there, you're not there, I have to get rid of it. So it's similar on the trees as well. You can do that.
And
so how does it work from the photorealism side of things? So obviously this sort of device would give you the point cloud model.
And it's got the HDR imagery as well from it.
Yeah,
it's got the imagery as well.
What sort of? So I've seen some laser point scans which have also, it has captured the color. I've seen some devices which have had actually a SLR on the top that goes around to kind of bring that color into the laser point scan. But from a processing point of view, so from Alex, from your point of view, to take that cloud point data to then make that photogrammetry, what else are you going to be doing at the scene other than just doing the laser scan?
We've been working with Steve, and this device is very much for capturing quick crime scenes, RTCs, crime scenes. You know, police can run in, press this button, do a few scans, and it's amazing. You've got the data. But we wouldn't have, like Mike's seen earlier, we wouldn't have a full photogrammetry scene from that data. It would have to be coupled with loads of imagery. But what we have been doing with Leica is taking that point cloud with Steve, the really quick point cloud, turning it into something that is usable in VR and having that in VR really quickly. So you could be at a crime scene down here in London, scan something, upload it. Down here in Leicester, like maybe 2 hours later, you could be walking around the representation of that scene, but it wouldn't be
really
photorealistic.
2 hours.
Yeah. You wouldn't be photorealistic. It would be a rough mesh.
Yeah.
I can hear someone's voice.
That's amazing.
They call it like scene to screen time is massively reduced now.
Scene to screen, yeah.
Let's say we would be inside of this building here, and we would do only one scan 360 using it. How big of a file would we get out of it, and how many polygons would we have after transforming it into polygons, obviously, from a point cloud?
Nice easy question, Steve, there. Yeah.
Well, Oscar, do you mean if we did scan the whole thing properly, or if we just did one scan from this position?
Just one scan, I was thinking.
Ah, Steve, one scan then from this position. How big? Oh, have we lost? Oh, you muted.
Yeah. He muted himself.
He muted himself.
Yeah, I didn't even try to. Yeah, so it would be about a couple of gigabytes per scan, but it'd be really difficult for me to say how many triangles it would be. If this range here, maybe the distance between the points would be, say, about between 3 to 6 millimeters. So how many triangles between how many points? I mean, I'll find out. I can tell you after the event if you want.
Okay.
You can adjust the accuracy anyway, can't you? You can adjust the amount of points you're taking in.
Exactly.
Yeah, then you can
on the side to be
afterwards
smaller.
to decimate down.
Okay.
It just gives me a quick setting.
Fascinating. So how
Anyway,
many
so
times
that's
would you move it in a place like this? How many different locations would you take?
Well, if I want, I'd have to do 4, maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Probably about 20 scans on the floor, I'd say.
Okay, so 20, that'd probably take you about an hour, but leaving enough time to move, and then a minute or so. Yeah. Okay. And that would be upstairs and downstairs?
No, then I'd go up the stairs. So I've got the geometry of the stairs changing elevation, and then I'd do the top floor as well.
Okay.
But on a crash scene, you might do about 10 scans around it, open up the motorway, and then you can go back. That's how the police have been using it.
Excellent. So let's say we had scanned this place, and then Kyle had got the scan available, and then he could use the. I think that's coming up next, isn't it, Alex and Kyle? Your use of a scanned place.
Yeah, definitely.
Like
I mean,
for,
it's got lots of applications. We actually,
training
so some of you may recall the Parsons Green incident we had in London again in 2017. We actually used laser scans at that scene. So we actually have that as a point cloud scene that people can walk around in virtual reality to kind of get an awareness of what that was like. So it's like Steve was saying, laser point scans are really good for accurate capturing of that crime scene, especially if it's one that's causing disruption and you have to close it down very, very quickly. But also, as you say, we can bring it into the training environment as well to either take officers to actual real crime scenes that have taken place, or, as you say, model a real location and then use that as a training location as well. So it's got such usability.
Very, absolutely.
Yeah, we've only just found out about these tonight. I mean, me and Steve had a little quick look at these, but my mind is absolutely exploding with the things that we can now do with these models. The reason I mention it is because, Steve, when we talk about contextual training, this is perfect for you guys, for a product, to be able to have the product inside VR with whoever around the world, show how the laser works. You know, I mean,
this is what I was saying.
We're gonna add new things to this and make it spin round properly and press the button, and you know, it needs to be a product demonstration. There's some of the things, Dan, that I'm passionate about showing.
Change the battery door, and you can, you know, you can actually interact with it. It becomes an all-in-purpose. You know, I could be a surveyor, for example.
The next thing then is to say, I'm sold. Click here and you've purchased it, right? And it arrives at your home like 24 hours later.
Take me to the e-commerce website.
Exactly.
Totally. Well, it was the same
these
actually,
are
because I
accessible now, so thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much,
Thanks, Steve. It was really good.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Applause. Lovely.
Hello. Cool.
Wonderful.
Oh, there's the website.
So,
looks like Chris is on it.
Chris is never asleep. He's quiet, but he's on the ball, definitely. Okay, are we moving to the next use of this space in terms of a training scenario?
Yeah, I think Kyle, you're going to talk about the location with the suspect package in here, and then we were going to jump out and have some questions, or what do you feel?
Will we want to remove most of the models for now?
Definitely, yeah. This is,
is that easy to do in one go, or do we do
time and stuff? And unless people have got specific questions and more questions about suspect package and things like that, I think we can just go to questions, really.
Okay, that's cool. Should we do that in engineering workshop then?
Yeah. Sounds good to me.
Or do you want a bigger area that you can spread out? Avery, if you spread out for talks, or you want to ask questions in a close area?
Avery's nice because it's kind of light and airy. I like the fresh air at Avery.
Okay. Let's go to Avery then. Who's doing that? Chris, are you still
I got
here?
it.
Chris,
Let's head on over to Avebury. Here we go.
And I need to say,
by the way, I checked out Avebury on Google Maps the other day, and I was really disappointed to see that it doesn't look like it does in Engage. I felt
we rewound time for our
exactly.
Here we go.
Cool.
I got to stop my recording. Hang on. There we go.
Cool.
Does it sound fun? I'm just in the questions now.
All right.
Oh, Dan, we're here. I just spanned my legs round as we exited that room. I spanned my legs round, and because I had a scanner right by my face, I really thought my legs were going to hit the scanner. It was odd. Very odd.
A couple of £1,000 of equipment. I hope you're insured, man.
Right. So we're in Avery. We come here normally at the end of doing one of our events because it is so airy and bright, and the lighting's great if we ever want to bring any models in. And also, this is great for questions. We were here last time, and Chris did an amazing thing where he started recording us and then made it small. So it was really cool last time. So I think Dan and Brian is around somewhere.
Yeah, Brian.
It'd be good if anyone's got any questions for anybody.
Lovely.
And maybe about things that you might want to have in future episodes.
Absolutely. We'll definitely do that later. We got Bob here from the National Research Council in Canada. You're muted, mate. Yeah, there you go. What's your question, my friend?
Hey folks.
Hi, Bob.
So this is probably to Kyle and Mike. In terms of capturing scenes, obviously, with the newer iPads and iOS 14 and presumably iPhone 12, we are going to have the capability to capture in our pocket a LiDAR scene. So, how easily could that actually be integrated so that we could have a cop on the street or at a scene capture real time? And is that something that can easily be deployed? Like, does the Met, deploy iPhones, or are you on Samsung Android devices and that kind of stuff?
We've got planes flying over.
Yeah, so from the Met's kind of perspective, we've invested quite a lot in kind of digital innovation the last few years. So in the last 4 or 5 years or so, we have seen a rollout of laptops for officers, and for our frontline officers, they tend to have tablets. So we do have technology out there. I mean, I have seen some of the stuff. I know I've been following Alex a bit on LinkedIn and seen some of the experimentation he's been doing with the LiDAR cameras and stuff on the tablets and with iPhones and things like that. And it excites me. And I think very much like you're saying there, Bob, the future will be where, you know, very simple user interface, an officer on the scene can quickly capture that scene, and you know, it would be useful for an investigation. So from one of the things that thinking about that immediately jumps to my mind is when we deal with sudden deaths. So from a police perspective, we'll get called to a property where there's been a death, and the person who actually makes the ultimate decision on how that person died and things of that nature is actually the coroner, which is the highest judge that we have within the UK. And at the moment, the coroner makes a decision by photos that have been taken at the scene and the statements that officers make about what they saw at that location as to what they think the cause of death, what contributed to the cause of death. For an officer to be able to go to that sudden death scene, capture it with their tablet, which they have, and then be able to show an accurate 3D model of that environment to the coroner would be a massive assistance, I think. So it really excites me where it's going. But
Kyle, can I just pick up, because you said it would be a huge help. Does that mean we're not there yet? And does it mean that we are approaching that? Are you working towards that? Because
from my kind of understanding, the technology with it coming out with like the LiDAR scanning being available on phone devices and tablets and things like that is relatively quite new. I can obviously...
Oh, just broke off then, Kyle.
I hope he's not crashed.
Just broke off then. He looks a little bit still.
Crashed.
Oh, crash.
Just while we're waiting, he'll come back in a minute. Just while we're waiting, my late uncle, he was a expert witness for the police. He's a radio navigation expert, and he was often used. So you know how cars have tracking devices on them? The defense or the prosecution would hire him to analyze the data from those vehicles or from those trackers and recreate a narrative from the data that could either prove or disprove guilt or just kind of make the data understandable to people, to the jury and the judge. And that kind of data was accepted more and more. And when he passed away, he was inundated from police services around the UK to I would not be surprised if this quite soon, and if it is accepted, because
it's already
as long as you can verify that it's actually that it's reliable data.
It's already in. We cars the cars that I'm associated with track a lot of data, and the data is then stored. And there was a police case not long ago where they used that data to determine some sort of investigation. So it is.
That could have been my uncle doing that. That could well have been my uncle doing that.
Possibly, yeah.
Cool.
So he was saying that cars nowadays, they generate more data than the average person browsing on the internet a full day. The amount of data being picked up by vehicles for analysis rather than like tracking, but performance analysis. So I wouldn't be surprised.
The average car, like the ones that I'm associated with, they have more electronics on than aeroplanes. So you can imagine the amount of data that's flowing around with the different sensors that pick up the outside, understand where they are, and then locate. Definitely. So it is amazing.
It's the Internet of Things, isn't it? The first wave of Internet of Things, really.
Yeah. And it links everything, like with the factories as well, with the industrial Internet of Things as well, linking it into that, so that they're all connected. I've dropped out. We've gone off script slightly because we're in a different room.
Yeah, I think we are. We were gonna do the suspect packages in the shop, but we decided because of time to come here and open up the questions. Have we got Kyle back?
Do questions?
Yeah, makes sense.
All right. Well, I wish Kyle were here, because this model that we're looking at here, I would love at a future event. We're going to ask about future events in a minute, but I think this is an ideal model to do like risk assessment for bodyguards, you know, like security assessments. And I would love to hear Kyle's take on how this could be used, where you could like investigate exits and entries and vulnerable points and security cameras. This for me would be ideal.
Get an RTC on that.
Tell you what would be good if what would be good if we did get somebody related to that particular role. I mean, I know Carl's for police terrorism, but the security teams that are a separate unit, I would think. There's no reason why we shouldn't be able to get somebody to come and talk about it. I would have thought.
Totally agree. Yeah, we should because we can scale it up, and we can then and the rescue services and then the shop, and also please have a think. Now that you've seen what these kind of models can do, and how LiDAR and photogrammetry, the models that they can create, what other kind of similar events and applications and requirements do you have for this technology? We mentioned one time a history event would be interesting. We still owe people a history event, Alex. Chris and I were talking about how we could use the bus that we were in earlier for another training scenario. Does anybody have any suggestions? And do we need to mute anybody, or you're all self-muted? I think that's okay. And
I think there's possibilities of putting them into industrial settings. That would be quite
industrial
good.
settings.
Looking at
like
robots,
for example,
understanding that, like robots working on a shop floor, machines running around you, things like that.
Yeah,
I think the possibilities are endless, and I think from what I'm getting from here, and if it's agreeable, I think the XR files and yourselves, we could do more of these events together, because I think we might as well spread the word wider. I think.
I totally agree. Yeah,
there's a possibility.
Very interested in that. Very interested in that.
And we could also do. I mean, we have some models of cars, but maybe we can get some. We can do a bit of a showroom. We can do a bit of that. We can do a bit of a bit of anything really. I think we could look at some of the services from an ambulance point of view, maybe paramedics, maybe dealing with injuries or something like that. So possibilities are endless.
And has anyone got any other specific suggestions from your experience today? I mean, the problem with anything is that we need to start somewhere. You could do, airplane evacuation rescue simulations.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Yeah, you could do just like service personnel as well. You know, flight attendants. You could do training there.
I saw you've got the new airplane in as well, Chris. The inside of the fuselage of the passenger plane.
Yes, we do have a fuselage. That's right.
I saw that. Yeah. And Joe, you also wanted to do something World War II related.
That's right.
Man. Yeah. We just brought in a
Definitely
bunch
want to
of
do that,
tanks,
Joe.
too.
Definitely want to do that.
Yeah. Well, I'm sorry I haven't been on email recently, but yeah, I'll get on to you about that.
No rush.
And the other thing is, we were actually talking to our Jason Dean today. We're talking about potentially doing a whole fire investigation walkthrough from one of our scenes with Jason Dean, which could work quite well.
Yeah, definitely. I think that
sounds great.
Like Dan, there's a list of them that we can now go through. We just have to plan for sort of the next 6 months, I guess.
I think we should totally do that. Next 6 months, every 2 weeks or so, because as we do them, we're learning more about how to run them as well.
Definitely.
Definitely.
Yeah, lovely. Anyone got any questions now about? I mean, we've it feels a lot more than an hour and a half, guys. Is it just me? Feels like we've been all over the place. Did we just lose Alex? I think we
lost Alex a bit.
Any questions?
Any more questions from anybody?
We got Charlie over here. Charlie, what's your question?
Where are all the models and where is everything hosted? You know, from a security point of view, I know I understand you're using this for crime scenes. Obviously, there needs to be some integrity of the data for that if you're going to be relying on it. I work in an industry where you might want secure data, and how does that relate? So could we host this on our own servers, or would we have to go to other servers? How does that work?
I think that might be one for Chris.
Yeah, so we're currently on AWS servers, and we would just work with your company directly and looking at other secure ways to do that.
Okay,
You could run these scenes not in an environment like this where you could have it local and run your own, run it through Unity or something like that, and then just incorporate into something like this when you want to spread it and you know that the security risk is less. So I think you can do it locally, but you just if you do something like this, it's more globally. I believe that's right, Chris.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
Any
but Brian,
questions?
some of us are global, so we want the security, but globally as well.
Oh yeah, too. But then you build your own little network. Then the network would be linked through it. You'd have your own security terms and build your own protocols on it. So this is. Forget me if I'm wrong, Chris, but this is opened up for the educational part of it.
This particular is yes. What we're in right now is yes.
Yeah.
But you can lock it down. There are ways of locking anything down, to be honest.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. All right.
I missed that.
How
bit
are we doing
as,
for time, by the way?
I slipped out again, but I'm back in again. Hopefully
Yeah,
you
saw
can hear
that.
me, Chris.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Alex.
So,
All right.
any more questions? If not, because I think about time wise, and we're sort of bringing it to the end.
Yeah.
I think we're all agreed that
Definitely.
we start to join these together and make them into these sort of events. Hopefully everybody's got the best out of this. Any questions can be linked to any of us. We have the X-Files. The X-Files. I keep saying that. The XR files as a LinkedIn group. You can join that if you want. We also have a YouTube channel now, which this is being streamed. Thanks for Oscar that is streaming this on YouTube today. I don't know how many viewers we've got, but hello to all the YouTube.
So
That's good.
viewers now we have 20, but overall I think we had around 100 so that's pretty
Fantastic.
Cool.
Okay, and
First
just
one, that's
before
only
we do
second-
go,
second stream.
just before we go, if you have any questions about Engage and how you can use it for your training and education simulations, please talk to Chris. He's very, very approachable on Twitter, on wherever you want to find him. Obviously, River make world-leading photorealistic models, and talk to them about that. Brian has been in the game for many, many years, and XR Files is doing great work there. We also have Steve from Leica. Thank you so much, Steve. If you're interested in those models, approach Steve there. Who else we have? We have Mike with the
DSTL.
proof, DSL, and the proof of
DSTL.
concept. So he's innovating a lot.
Proof of concept.
You know, if you, do we still have Rob Terrio here? Is Rob still with us? I think maybe he left a bit
I
late.
don't see Rob.
No, shame. He was here. He was with the paramedics, and I would have been interested to hear his take on that. But thank you so. Oh, and I see Dave Hayes over there. Hi, Dave Hayes. Haynes.
Yeah, hi
Hey,
Dave. I
Nice
saw
to
you
see
there.
you. Yeah,
Good to
hey,
see you
nice to
first
see you, man.
time.
And feel free to hang out a little bit longer if you want. But pretty much, I think we've wrapped it up now. I really enjoyed this one. Can't wait for the next
cool.
one.
I'm gonna.
Can I just before we go off, just to
looking
add?
forward. I'm
Please.
gonna stay around for a little bit.
Same.
Stay around for a little bit and show a few models off. So if anyone wants to hang
go.
around, I'll be over.
And
this way.
Brian?
Yeah,
Brian,
just finishing off what I said about the YouTube channel, an XR YouTube channel. There'll be videos there.
Now I'm happy.
If you want to see the videos, you can see them on there. We'll edit them a bit so it makes it a bit easier. And there are the other two sessions that we've done are there as well to pick them up. But I think we can end the stream
Chris,
now, can't we, Oscar?
I'm in here.
Okay. Thanks
Can I
everybody.
I was going to show